The voice of sharing Durian ASEAN.
Hey, this is Arlene, and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Today we have a very special special guest DJ. He's actually our intern. His name is Asmod Karki. He'll be joining us, hosting the show starting from today. And together with me and Gowri, we will read the news for our ASEAN Breakfast Call, and as well as doing really interesting interviews for our Blast from the Grassroots and also the ASEAN Breakfast Call dialogue. So before we start, I would like to introduce Asmod. Maybe you can give a word or two about yourself.
Hi, I'm Asmod. I'm from Nepal, and I'm a third-year student in Public Policy and International Affairs in Princeton University. So I'll be here till August, till the beginning of August, and interning with this station and also doing an ethnographic research on Nepali migrants. Yeah, I'll hopefully be join you guys and host shows and enjoy the process.
Yeah, welcome to Durian ASEAN.
Yes, welcome.
Thanks.
And your interest is also on migrant workers and especially Nepali migrant workers, right?
In Malaysia, yeah.
In Malaysia. And talking about migrant workers, although it's not really directly related, but it's somehow interconnected, is today is the International Refugees Day. It falls on the 20th of June 2014 for this year, and we will be having a segment on ABC Dialogue regarding on the status of refugees and their plights. So let's start the news with Singapore. The first news reported by the West Australia, titled "Perth-Singapore Cable Race Heats Up."
The race to build an underwater internet cable from Perth to Singapore took another turn yesterday, with the Bevan Slattery-backed sub-partners engaging a company to build a 3,300 deep water component of its proposed 200 million project. So this deal would help to deliver the Singapore line as well as a connecting Perth to Sydney line within 24 months. The company engaged US-based Tesubcom for the APX West cable to Singapore. And the company also wants to put a focus on commercial negotiations to fund the project.
So partners, telecommunications provider, NextGen and Trident Subsea Cable are competing for resources and funding to build 3 distinct water cable projects, which will start at City Beach and run to Singapore, though it is likely only one would proceed.
Yeah, so just to give a background, the APFX system will connect Perth, Australia to Changi North, which is in Singapore, with planned branches to Jakarta, Indonesia, and Christmas Island. The system is approximately 4,700 kilometer long and is expected to be in operation second quarter of 2016. Delivering both systems within 24 months is key to meeting the expectation of the foundation customers supporting APX West and APX Central Singapore to Perth and Perth to Sydney respectively. So I guess this piece of news sort of show that Singapore is really working its best in terms of trying to provide the best connectivity for its region together with Australia as well. But on the long term, I remember one piece of news we reported early this week about Singapore's aiming to be an intelligence nation, and I think this piece of news totally sum up the future direction of Singapore.
It's true, but I also read a lot of articles, not articles, maybe comments for that intelligence news, that a lot of people were actually not happy about that. Like, I remember we were commenting that the workers there are not happy and that maybe they should focus on that first. And turns out that the Singaporeans actually have the same mindset. You know, they think that this is not the priority of Singapore right now. It should be improving the improving the environment at the workplace first before pushing for all these developments.
And we have next news from Malaysia. Syed Jamal Jahid writes in the Malay Online that no new legal safeguards against unilateral child conversion, minister says.
Yeah, so Putrajaya had no plans to amend or enact laws to prohibit unilateral conversions of minors to Islam. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Datuk Sri Jamil Khail Baharom, had said amid the continued controversy of interfaith custody rules.
In a written parliamentary reply to Ipoh Barat DAP lawmaker M. Kulasegaran, the minister in charge of Islamic affairs said that any legal tussle over child conversion cases will have to be based on existing laws. The government realizes that there are problems involving children's faith arising when one of the parents converts to Islam.
But at the moment, the government does not plan to make any amendments to the laws governing conversions of children under 18. The issue most commonly manifests itself in the form of a legal limbo surrounding interfaith custody battles, as one non-Muslim spouse attempts to gain custody via civil courts, while the other Muslim half of the couple, almost always the husband, tries the same via the Sharia route. And Putrajaya has advised for the matter to be decided by the federal court, saying it was the proper venue for to resolve the dispute.
And I guess a country with majority Muslim but significant Buddhist, Christians and Hindu minorities conversion remains a heated topic. So comments such as one made by the minister only creates more confusion among public regarding on the interpretation of the constitution. But I guess one thing that I want to highlight is I read a piece of news, I think a couple of years ago, in India.
Okay.
Similar situation happened as well. So if you want to get back your children, the best route is to convert to Islam and claim that you are doing this just because you want to protect Islam, to preserve the sanctity of Islam.
Yeah, but there have been many cases like this being reported in Malaysia, and the news said the husband is usually the one that's Muslim, and he is usually in charge of converting the child. And personally, I think that the government should. It's not right for them to just say that they're not going to make any amendments, because right now all this interfaith tussle will be based on the Article 12(4) of the Federal Constitution, which allows for one parent to convert the children, and we know that have been causing a lot of problems in Malaysia as in interfaith marriages.
Yeah, look at the recent Hindu marriage that happened where it was raided by JAIS. JAIS is Jabatan Agama Islam Selangor, or the Department of Islamic Affairs in Selangor. It turns out that although her name is a Muslim name, and in her IC she's clearly been identified as a Muslim, but she has never practiced the religion. She has always been being taken care by her Hindu mother, and has always been practicing Hinduism in her whole life.
Even the recent Indira Gandhi case, I think that's been going on for quite some time, and the husband disappeared with the child, and the mother is just left hanging at home. She doesn't know where's her husband, where's her youngest baby, and she's worried, and the police are not doing anything. They're waiting for the court, and I think that, and Putrajaya has been toying with this thing for I think about 5 years now. They keep saying that we're gonna do something about it,
but they are not doing anything.
Yeah, and now they actually said that no, it's done. Just follow the existing laws. We're not going to make any changes.
I think that's the problem when our constitution is meddled without understanding that religion is the superior law of the land instead of a secular understanding of the law. But Asmod, what do you think of the issue of conversion of minor without the consenting of one of the parent?
So I think the comments of ministers and the ongoing debates, like they say that if the child is less than, or if the person is less than younger than 18 years, then the parents have rights for conversion. say like in case of Malaysia, like if the conversion is to Islam, then that's kind of serious for the child because he cannot convert out of the religion. So that's a very serious issue, and for someone like who wants to make a choice for himself or herself, that's a very concerning issue, at least like in terms of religious freedom and identity of a person. So rather than like imposing religions and dogmas on children, I think the children also should have some say, at least like if they are capable enough of making decisions by themselves.
Mm-hmm. So I guess for the case of Malaysia, is I think I mean you are right. The kids should be allowed to make a decision. What I think when they reach a certain age, let's say 18 years old, they should have the right to choose if they want to follow Islam or they want to follow other religion. So the next one, you want to read the next news?
Sure. It's about Malaysia too, where Fox News, right? Writes 5 dead, 32 missing as boat full of Indonesian migrants capsizes off Malaysia coast. At least 60 people survived when a wooden boat carrying 97 Indonesians capsized and sank early Wednesday after leaving Malaysia's west coast. But 32 others are still missing and 5 bodies have been recovered, Malaysia's maritime agency said.
And the boat sank shortly after midnight, about 2 nautical miles from shores on the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, while trying to leave Malaysia illegally for Aceh province in Indonesia. And the person, the agency that in charge, Muhammad Hambali Yaakob, on this case, he said survivors included 12 women and a child. Those that were a woman and 4 men. Sorry. So the Indonesians suspected to be illegal immigrants were believed to be heading home ahead of the start of the holy Muslim month of Ramadan. And Muslim Hambali said authorities are still investigating why the boat sank, but rough sea and an overloaded boat could have been the factors. Some survivors also claimed the boat was leaking. And when it comes to this case, I think it is not something that is uniquely different from a lot of the yearly case where illegal migrants or migrants in general face prosecution, and they face a lot of they have to live dangerously in a way. In this case, even to go back for the Muslim festival of Ramadan, they have to go back illegally in a wooden boat, which unfortunately sank.
I think it's very sad, and these people are not being properly protected by the government either, by be it the Indonesian government or the Malaysian government, because they come here illegally and they have to stay under the radar. So even like when they're not well or what, they cannot exactly, they're too scared to go to the hospital, especially with this new operation that was recently carried out in Malaysia, where they just arrest you on sight. They look at you, they think you're a foreigner and you don't have a permit.
You don't have the proper documents that
and they can just take you in right away. So I think that all that kind of leads up to people just being under the radar, and then they don't have their rights, and they're not brave enough to voice it out even, and then they have to go back to their country illegally. And then when something like this happens, it becomes such a major issue. But at the same time, I think we have to go back down to the root of it all and do something, come up with probably like a proper policy or something for the migrant workers.
And from Malaysia, now we move on to Myanmar. Nien Nien writes in the Irrawaddy that think tank calls for quota to boost women's role in Burmese politics. New research reaffirms that women's participation in decision-making processes is still low in Burma and calls for a quota system to increase their representation in governance.
Okay, so Burma ranks the lowest of all Southeast Asian countries for women representative in governance, and they are ranked at 170th of 185 selected countries worldwide, according to the Myanmar Development Resource Institute (MDR), a government-affiliated think tank. The study also found that only 4.42% of lawmakers of the Union Parliament were women, compared to 2.83% of lawmakers in state and divisional parliaments. In fact, the person Kim Ning, he's the Burma's country representative at the ASEAN Foundation, said the findings would hopefully provide a platform for broader discussion of gender issue in the country.
So I think that people there still have this preconceived notion about how women are still incapable of probably being in the government and running the country, but women are usually more qualified than people usually think. You know, they are actually capable, but it's only because probably the system in the country does not favor a certain gender, and that's why they are not. It's probably also causes them to not be interested in being in government in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because Aung San Suu Kyi is the face of Burma or Myanmar, but at the same time, women participation in general is actually quite low. Do you have any comment on this?
Yeah, so the relationship between the military, like male-dominated military junta, and women's participation can also be something worth exploring in the future, because like Burma has been under military rule for decades, and that might have played some role in the social dynamics, because we don't usually see women's faces in the military system and in decision-making processes. So I'm wondering, like, how that have played out in shaping social dynamics in Burma.
That is definitely a very interesting perspective that worth exploring, because like you said, the military is a very male-oriented and male-dominated. I would say is a very male-dominated area or participation. So when it comes to women, I think they are always being perceived culturally as someone that should be, left, be a homemaker, be in the kitchen. So only recent times they have come out from their cocoon, and I witnessed this when I was in Burma, when I was in Myanmar. I realized that the original role of woman has always been someone that is submissive, that is very secluded from the public life. Anyway, from Burma, let's move to another country, Philippines. This is another issue regarding on the South China Sea, which we will be discussing later on as well. So, Philippines, U.S. to hold naval drills near disputed shore in the South China Sea. This was reported by Singapore's Today's Online. Philippines and American troops are set to hold naval exercises this month near a disputed shoal, which will almost certainly anger China, with tension already high in the South China Sea.
So the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, Vietnam, and Taiwan also claim parts of the waters, and China has viewed with suspicion what it sees as U.S. moves to provoke tension by supporting its regional allies, notably the Vietnam and the Philippines. And 5 warships, including a U.S.-guided missile destroyer, and about 1,000 troops will take part in the week-long Cooperation Afloat Readiness and Training, or CARAT, C-A-R-A-T, as they abbreviate it, exercises, which will include live fire drills 40 miles, which is 64 kilometers off Zambales, on the western shores of the Philippine island of Luzon. In January 13, the Philippines went to the arbitration court in The Hague to question China's excessive policy in the South China Sea, hoping that the court will order China to pull its ships away from the rocky outcrop.
China, it claims a huge territory of South China Sea, and the issue about the islands in the South China Sea has been a very critical one in recent days, especially the region is more hosts more fishing grounds and very rich oil resources, and it's also a very prominent trading region in the world. We'll discuss more about it later in our show, so probably we'll move on to news from Brunei now, where the Brunei Times writes, closer cooperation needed to build ASEAN community. closer cooperation between national assemblies of ASEAN member states is needed to achieve the goals of the ASEAN community, said the Speaker of Brunei's Legislative Council.
So the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly, or IPA, recognizes the importance of close collaborations and cooperations among member countries. This was stated by Yang Berhormat Pehin Orang Kaya Laila Setia Bakti Diraja Datuk Laila Utama Haji Isafin Datuk Perdana Menteri Datuk Laila and Datuk Laila Utama Haji Ibrahim said yesterday during the opening of the 6th IPA Caucus. Sorry.
Wow, all that in one breath, Arlene.
So this is important. The person said, he said, for the continued peace, stability, prosperity, and sustainable development of our region, as well as the well-being of the people of ASEAN.
So the IPA caucus is the best platform for our parliamentarians to further extend the avenues of cooperation among our countries and to focus its discussions on matters pertinent to issues that will contribute towards the achievement of ASEAN's noble vision, he said at the caucus held at the International Convention Center.
I think caucuses like this will help to strengthen bilateral cooperation in all fields, like especially as the economies in ASEAN continue to grow and boom. So say like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, even though they have political instability, but at the end of the day, the economy in the region is very prominent. So the greater cooperation the countries have in this region, I think the region as a whole and its neighbors are going to profit and benefit tremendously in the days to come.
Do you think that Brunei is trying to kind of get into everyone's good books after approving the Sharia law? Because for a long time, it was like all they had was only controversial news about everyone accusing them of going back to the Stone Ages and all and being inconsiderate. And then suddenly they have all this news about preserving the coral reefs and coming out with new transformation programs and now to strengthen the relationship between the ASEAN countries.
But what I see this maybe in a different perspective because I see that South China Sea is a huge threat to Southeast Asia, especially when it comes to China claiming the land, the sea areas there, and it encompass the sea shores of Brunei as well. So I guess Brunei, understanding that it is a very minute country with small population and doesn't have the capacity to go against a country as huge as China. So I think it's in a way it's trying to tell all countries in ASEAN to see that, you know, if we don't cooperate, we don't strengthen ourselves together, we would not be able to go against major powers like China. And when it comes to, of course, when it comes to security, when it comes to economic and other issues related to development, is a good thing. But I think the major cooperation would definitely benefit is the area on security.
Okay, let's move on to Philippines now. So the Philippines are ordering their nationals to leave Iraq. So the Philippines ordered its nationals in Iraq on Thursday, June 19, to leave the Middle Eastern country that faces life-threatening crisis because of a militant offensive. The Philippines Department of Foreign Affairs, the DFA, issued the directive as it raised crisis alert level 4 in Iraq, except the Kurdistan region. The DFA also cited that rapidly deteriorating security situation in Iraq for raising crisis alert level 4, which entails mandatory repatriation.
The government will shoulder repatriation expenses. Filipinos in Iraq will be assisted by the Philippine Embassy in Baghdad and the Rapid Response Team, which are currently undertaking registration of overseas Filipino workers for repatriation, the DFA said. The DFA continues to closely monitor the political and security developments in Iraq, it added. And taking the recent case of internationals being abducted in Iraq, where like 40 international nationals and their whereabouts are still unknown in Iraq, and the recent upsurge of ISIS is a militant group and is closely approaching Baghdad. Taking all those developments in consideration, Philippines' concern is not definitely unfounded, and U.S. has been considering taking military actions, and the Iraq has officially requested U.S. for airstrikes. So, given the recent developments and sectarian crisis in Iraq, I think not just Philippines but many countries in the world are watching out and monitoring the development in Iraq very closely.
Yeah, and this included Malaysia as well. Like recent stories of, I think there are close to 200 Malaysians in Iraq right now, and it was reported that all of them are safe. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like our government is also monitoring the activities of ISIS and what is happening in Iraq right now. It's interesting about this group ISIS because they are being considered to be something similar to the Taliban. In a way, they are enacting Sharia law, the harshest punishment of Sharia law, and they are in a way they are creating this anarchy in environment where they are the only one ruling the country. So, moving on to our news from Blast from the Grassroots in another half an hour. For now, we are going to end our news commentary for our ASEAN news. But don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, as well as on YouTube. You can type durianasian.com.
Yeah, and they can subscribe to our channel. Actually, we upload 2 videos every day of our interviews and also a 3-minute video of the guest summarizing the topic.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting. As well as you can follow our intern, Asmod Karki, activities in Facebook as well. If you have any comment to him about Nepal or about what he's doing.
And lastly, if you don't have your computer with you, you can always download the TuneIn app on your smartphone and still listen to us.
I need to download it as well.
Oh, yeah, you do.
I think the new media has replaced the old media of FM. Definitely, it will be a great thing to tune in to your mobile and listen to durianasian.com.